Welcome everyone to our second Dutchlink Goes Online, and today I have the real pleasure in welcoming the general manager of one of Sydney's most iconic hotels, the Sydney Hilton, which opened its doors in 1974, and it was Sydney's first international five-star hotel. Welcome, Ronald van Weezel. How are you?
Very well, thank you for that introduction about the hotel from 1974. Since then a lot has happened, and actually in 2005 a complete hotel renovation took place and a whole change of the first 4 levels, food and beverage, and all the rooms. And actually right now we are doing another rooms renovation that is all going to be ready mid of this year. So we are changing and progressing.
That's exciting, that's exciting. Well, as you understand, there are a lot of members who are very interested in hearing how the Hilton Hotel is responding to the COVID-19 regarding the work practices. Could you please tell us, how are you coping with everything?
Well, of course, it's a key question, and hotels need to be what you call safe places, where if you arrive to a hotel, you want to feel looked after and safe. And in this period especially, it's very important that we adhere to the best possible standards and to ensure we can give that safe place to our visiting guests. So we started very early when things developed in China. We really got already a lot of information, manuals, and we were pretty proactive with extra cleaning. We work with international cleaning advisors and companies, suppliers that, you know, from the States to here, across to Japan and so on. And we got detailed manuals and did briefings with our team. So we started our public space extra cleaning. We started with the programs on the elevator buttons, door handles, spots in the guest rooms, which are those areas, you know, like a remote controller, telephones, all these spots that are touched more often. So we did a lot of activities there to start with. And while also COVID-19 came more to Australia, and unfortunately growing and more cases, we have re-emphasized all those steps, and no need to say the sanitizers everywhere, encouraging the staff, the guests. There's a whole program, and also the way we clean, collect the laundry, it's for the guests and it's for the heart of the house, the team members. But the first journey was already when there were little restrictions, when all the restaurants were still open, our banquets still had the capacity for, 800-900 or more guests on a day. We started with all these procedures and policies. Room service trolleys were cleaned extra. Now, of course, with the restrictions, we do not have all these restaurants and event spaces open, but our program started and we are fine-tuning this at the moment for when we reopen all these areas again.
Right, right. And did the Hilton Hotel volunteer to be a quarantine hotel, or is it something that the government then mandates it once the situation got that the borders were closed and everything?
No, there was a moment where you remember the federal government said returning Australians need to be in quarantine, and we were then asked if we wanted to participate, and it was like several other big hotels in the country and in Sydney. We volunteered on that, and it was at a challenging time. It was also to assist the government, and we only took one group for 2 weeks. But it was certainly not imposed. It was something that we volunteered to do.
Right. So, are other Hilton hotels, were they used globally as well, or was this purely?
The decisions were done in each country, but indeed we have in various countries in Southeast Asia, at the moment in New Zealand, the same route was followed to assist the government in accommodating these groups.
Right, right. And a lot of people who would like to have some sort of idea what was it like for a quarantine guest? Can they order room service? How was the food delivered? Was it used by a flight catering center? How would we picture this?
I love your question, because you may remember that on the Friday night the announcement came,
yeah,
that returning Australians mainly needed to be in quarantine. So we already got the first guest on Sunday morning. And by Sunday afternoon, we had over 300 guests in-house.
Wow.
So, you know, and not necessarily our regular guest. So we had to look very much into how do we do the service, what are expectations, and it was a journey, especially as it was new, one needed to learn as well. So we did cater the first day, breakfast, lunch, dinner. It needed to be put in front of the guest rooms, because the guests needed to stay in the rooms. We knocked on the door and then walked away, because you know, we were not allowed to have contact. So for people in hospitality business, if somebody talks, walk away, that's totally the opposite from what we normally do.
And no tip.
And no tip on top of it. So that's the journey we continued. But of course, Annerie, then the calls came, I'm gluten-free or I'm sugar-free. And you won't believe the amount of dietary requests we got. About a third had dietary requests. So the kitchen, flexible, adapted quickly. And we did it. But the day afterwards, the government took over the catering through an outside caterer.
Yeah.
So, and that was the plan, and that was good. And all these dietary requests were mapped out. So all the guests got breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Maybe dietary, but a set menu. So what we as hotel did, we did take room service orders with limited menu for pizzas and
I can imagine.
hamburgers, and you know, the type of food people look for. So we did add that coffee orders, and that was very welcomed, you know, to have a flat white or specialty coffees. We also did beverage deliveries, alcoholic, because those guests staying here were not allowed to get alcohol into the hotel. They couldn't order that. So we had...
So no mini bar?
No, we didn't have mini bars because we needed fridge space for these guests to put some of their items in. Yeah. So mini bar items could be ordered through the hotel, or 6 beers. We kept a maximum that we kept alcohol control. You couldn't just order 5 bottles of wines, but we did it, and I know from guest feedback people appreciated that immensely.
Yeah, I can imagine, but it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge to do that.
It was for everybody who was involved those 2 weeks hard work. We talked about you know, with potential COVID-19 cases, we had to adhere to all the masks and the goggles and the gloves. We were very every briefing included again all the steps that needed to be taken, and the 2 weeks went very successful, very good. Hard work, but very smooth.
Very good. We actually got a question from one of our members, Brigitte Jager, if I can put that to you. And she was wondering, could you think of a moment during that time we were just talking about that put a smile on your face? Because and we all are sort of wondering, being in quarantine, you would be extremely grateful, but there would have probably been a few that might have been a little bit frustrated. Was there a couple of things that you can think of during that time that make you laugh, or you think?
I actually had quite some moments. First of all, there were some guest posting messages on Facebook, and so one person wanted to have a Facebook group of the people staying here, and he worked on that. So I called that guest, and he was totally, oh guys, I love it here, and a beautiful room, and what a hospitality. And I thought, what is he talking about? He needs to be 2 weeks in that room. But I talked to somebody else who found it was a retreat. He said, it's a delight to be on my own for 2 weeks. And I thought, well, I wouldn't think like that. And I stayed a bit in contact with that guest until the end. He thanked and he thought it was fantastic.
Oh, that is so lovely.
It was very nice. We also had the opposite, people who got very stressed out.
Yeah.
But there was medical staff from New South Wales Health in the hotel, so they dealt with it. And they really, they kept calm and they got these situations very much under control. So that worked very well. But I think that funniest moment was when, actually that first day, when all these guests started to go for dietaries. I was standing with the kitchen team and there were dietaries I never heard about.
No, yeah.
And they also called, and then a few days later, because we tracked it, they changed their diet. So certainly it had to be different. And at the end, when the guests left after 2 weeks, there were emotions. You saw a young guy, a lady was waiting, really in kissing till the end, like, I'm free. And some people said, I'm free. And one lady said, which we never like to hear, she said, I've been 2 weeks in the Hilton, never again. And I said, you have to come back when we have all the services again. And she said, actually, you're right, I will do that. So it was a nice feedback.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. We can just imagine how challenging that would be. One of the other questions, just to get back to your own career, you've been with the Hilton for 40 years, am I right?
Or 42 this year.
Oh, 42. So congratulations. That's a huge achievement, Ronald. One of our members, Victor Corneyn, he's actually wondering, during that time, in regards to your loyalty, how do you balance your loyalty to the company without having that, curiosity about what professional life would be like outside Hilton? And with other words, were you ever tempted, or is it like the Hilton is like your family, and that's, I've never really even wondered about that?
I think loyalty is a good word you're using, and it's loyalty of a team member, of me, but it's also loyalty of the company, the support the company has given and still gives. So I see that there's actually quite some colleagues who are even, I have a colleague who's 50 years with Hilton in Amsterdam, but I see it with different colleagues who are also 40 years with Hilton, or 41 or 38. And if you look to the journey, I think it was built on a number of key steps. And step one is, having joined Hilton after I did the School of Hotel Business Administration in The Hague, step number one was that you got all these courses and exposures and trainings, changing jobs, that you did grow. Then, as a person who wanted to go into the world, the moves that came, and the timely moves that came. And again, growth and new positions and different countries. And again, these courses and training programs. So it was a journey that always kept it exciting. I did roles pretty different. I was a rebranding director in Scandinavia. I was an area food and beverage director in the UK for the Hiltons, general manager in different countries. So you had this exposure in different corners of the business with different challenges. So to stay longer in the company, there was always change, and it was also the company looking after you. Funnily enough, a few years ago, I was invited for a program together with Cornell University near our headquarters in Virginia. And it was one of these, senior managers program development. It was something where I thought, well, that's maybe not for me anymore, but I was invited. And in my class were some other of these Hilton guys who were also many years with the company. And we all had a laugh. Oh, we're still invited. But it means, that trust in continuation, further development, it doesn't stop. And it hasn't stopped one single day. Yeah. So back to that question, were there other opportunities outside the company? Yes, headhunters calling. But I had a moment where a headhunter was really trying, and I was in for a move. And after the first call of that headhunter, coincidentally Hilton called with the best offer. So it was there already.
Yeah.
And it has been on more occasions that one did not really need to look to, you know, the other hotel chain where the grass may be greener. It happened in Hilton. And I see that also for many of my team members, colleagues here or abroad, the journey continues. Of course, the performance needs to be there.
Yeah.
Curiosity, some flexibility. But if that is there, the company is, we are there to support people and to grow careers. That's a very strong part of the Hilton culture.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And it sounds also that like, you know, every morning that you wake up, you enjoy going to work because, you know, you have that feeling of your loyalty, and it's like a family, isn't it, in a way?
You say it right. When I take a shower in the morning, and it's the truth. It's not just to say it nice, but I'm ready again for the next day. That's how it is.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, another question in regards to that. You've been all over the world, and but you've been in Australia and in Sydney for quite a while. And what's the reason? Is that because you enjoy Sydney so much? We've got one of our members, Frans Verstraeten. He's very curious in hearing your thoughts about that.
Yeah, listen, I've worked, I think, in 9 countries and about 40 different jobs and operations. And I've cherished, you know, I worked in Jakarta for 4 years. I thought those were golden years. I worked in London. I loved it. In Germany, I had a great time, and so on. In various Tel Aviv, other countries, I had great times. But if you say living in Sydney, living in Australia, for me, of course, step one is which hotel do I work in? Yeah. And I feel privileged in a hotel, normally the busy Hilton Sydney, to manage that hotel and have a fantastic international team. We have like 45 nationalities. That's the moment under the shower in the morning that I think, lucky me, and I continue doing that exciting job. That's step number one. Location in the CBD, you just step out of the hotel and life is around. But also the greenery, and that's the other part of Sydney. You know, if I go, that's my hobby, jogging in the botanical gardens. You don't stop enjoying that beauty of the city. And that continues. I think the other part is, you know, with the climate and the beaches and the Australian mentality around us and the friendships you make here. I really feel, for many of us, we live in a privileged place. And years ago, when I lived in Indonesia, I visited Australia and I visited Sydney. And I must say, at that moment, I fell in love with Sydney. And I feel privileged that now, later in life, I can live and work here.
Yeah, it's wonderful, isn't it? And even I believe you're a bit of a bike rider. So you even though there's not that many good bike lanes like they have in Holland, but it's getting there, isn't it?
Well, and there are good hills to push a push bike. Indeed, but you know, if you say what's the moment of feeling happy? Yes, if I'm on my bike and I go to Watson's Bay, for example, and pushing that bike and seeing that's it, the Heartbreak Hill, and then I'm on top of the Heartbreak Hill and see the harbor and the harbor bridge. That's the treat, and those are moments where I feel wow, this is a fantastic place to live.
That's lovely. Ronald, what in regards to just to get back to COVID-19, how have you responded personally to it in your life? Say besides everything in the hotel, what's you know, is there something that you say, well, look, this was difficult or more difficult, or what are you? What sort of?
If you talk to many people, everybody will say, this is my experience, this is my experience. And in that sense, I'm happy to share my experience. Number one is you are always, at least myself, working that busy motor, busy hotel, lots of appointments, often home late at night. and working with big teams, and I can say a lot of successes are being booked, and suddenly it starts with COVID-19, and that changes. You're suddenly in a different ball game. So I think the famous word resilience, that's a bit of a test. How's my resilience? How's my leadership?
Yeah.
How is that amongst my team? And I've seen a lot of resilience in my team. I've seen some examples of flexibility, adapting. Actually, overall, quite impressed how the team sticks together and is moving. So that's a great learning curve at this time, to see that leadership also from my leaders, from my head of department, supervisors, how they cope with it and manage it together. I think that's a fantastic example. The other part is we have to look to our organizations in a different way. And if you say the positive of the negative is, the positive is that you have to retest departments' efficiencies, look into the future, how are we going to work? And I spent a lot of time on that. That's the other part. The hygienic aspect, do we live in the right way? That's a topic on its own. How do we make sure that the safety of our guests is now even stronger? And that's another learning curve to look into. So those are professional aspects I deal with. Personally, I think, I often come home at 10 o'clock and I had a bite on the way or during a reception or quickly in the office, and I dine more at home now.
Yeah,
also
good.
Cook more than I ever cook. And I must say that's also what I call the cozy dinners for two. I must also say that is an experience that I enjoy a lot of the domestic things that normally I don't experience so often.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a socialite, so even a bit less social, why not for a break and watch a bit more the news and films and television and a book. I read the papers more intense than ever. So I think that's a learning curve, and maybe also a bit like, I don't think I'm a very materialistic person, but the touches you have, I want that new suit or new shirt, which is certainly not so important. Yeah. I also think that's a part where you're a bit with your feet on the ground and maybe start to respect a lot of things a bit more than we have done. So I in a way see the negative thing that happens and affects a lot of our lives, our business lives. And for many of my team members, it's a tough time to sit at home waiting till restaurants or bars close again. Let's not make too rosy. It's a tough game, but every negative has a positive, and we also go through a learning curve as people. Mm-hmm. And I see that personally as a bit of an enrichment. It sounds maybe too smiley, but no, I see it as an enrichment in a personal journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you can think of the one thing that what you're looking forward to the most once we go back to normal, is there one thing that you can think of?
What a question. You would say many things.
Yeah. But say one little, like for instance, I know what I'm looking forward to, share with everyone a glass of wine in the marble bar, and I can't imagine us all standing that close together, for instance.
Annerie, I may think a bit longer term, and of course I look forward to meeting up again and that glass of wine and a dinner, and can't wait. Yeah. But if you say really, what is that what you look forward more to? I after this international life, our first move was to Brussels in '83, and then a few years in Amsterdam. But as of '87, we moved into the world. One day we will go back to the Netherlands, and we have a house there in a village near Noordwijk. And I sometimes in this busy life think, do I really look forward to that? Or do I like the busy Sydney and the bus? And I did not have a clear answer for myself. No. And I think going through this period now, I think I can start looking forward one day to that house in Holland and the garden and the walk to the beach. And that's what I actually picked up in the last 2 months since life calmed down a bit, and look for, more for the nature and health and fitness. And I think that's strengthening now. So if you pose that question, I think that's that part.
Lovely, lovely, Ronald. Well, thank you so much. I know we could talk for hours, but I'm not going to hold you up because you are a very busy man. But I thoroughly enjoyed having a chat with you, and congratulations with you and your entire team for doing what you're doing. And it's wonderful. And as you said, it's difficult times, but it's lovely to hear, you know, to share this with us, and we very much appreciate it. And looking forward to that time that we can all hug again and share our drinks. We
Raise
wish
the
you
glass.
all the very
Raise that glass on that. Okay,
yeah.
Annerie. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much, Ronald.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.